Hi everyone, my name is Will, and you're here at the Think Different podcast for 81 amazing episodes, and we are back for another tremendous week here at the Think Different podcast, the podcast of former Apple employees here on YouTube and our podcast platform to talk about the world of Apple. I am Will TLD, of course, as you know, but the most important man in the room, it is Mr. Keto Beautiful 55-year-old Frank Funk.
Yeah, it's me. What's going on, man?
Now, it's been a crazy week, judging the fact that I had absolutely nothing prepared for this week because it's a busy week. You know, father time, weddings got to finish up. You know, job is now becoming busier because I'm starting to know stuff. So it's making things really difficult in the world. But we have to talk about the Super Bowl because we really didn't even talk about that.
Oh, yeah, well.
What were your thoughts on Brady's performance?
Listen, you got to give it to the guy. He can move him down the field, and the offensive line held up for him. The Tampa Bay defense was relentless.
Terrible. Oh, I'm talking about the other defense, the Chiefs.
Yeah, Kansas City's, and
they were horrible.
They, you know, my wife didn't care for the game too much because she's not a Brady fan. I am, but I'm not a vocal Brady fan in the house. I, let her do her thing. I just sit there quietly, and he took them down the field. I mean, Kansas City held them on the 1 yard line there.
Yep.
But, they took advantage of the opportunities. Kansas City had a lot of penalties.
A lot of defensive penalties, that is for sure.
Yep.
And you could just tell they were just off. You could even tell that Mahomes was off that night. He had that stub toe or that injured toe that he has to get surgically fixed. So he definitely wasn't running as much, or if he was starting to slow down towards the end. Yeah. And it was a pretty dominant game. It's just that the Chiefs were just not there. They were clearly, they were weakened going into that game, and it showed. They played the worst game of the entire year. The entire year, that was their worst game.
And conversely,
and remember, they beat them on Thanksgiving. So,
yes.
You can't say that Brady was just the best. It's not. That team was weakened going into that Super Bowl.
Tampa Bay was the better team that day.
Yeah.
And hey, I give Brady a lot of credit, man. He marshaled that team, and I mean, 7 Super Bowls. That's something.
There's nobody. I don't know if there's anybody that will be able to top that, except for me, TLD. Because if I was on that alley, I'm telling you right now, if I was on the alley, I would run that football down all the way to the end and get a 300 game. Oh, that's bowling.
Yep.
I've done that. So this week we wanted to take a break from the news as usual because everyone talks about news. Apple Car this, the visor, the Apple tags, all that crap. We're just going to talk back to the Apple Store. And one of my favorite subjects that we always have to talk about is feedback that people give to the Apple Store. And we are going to pull our former stores and we are going to read off a positive and a negative review from that store and their experience and give our feedback regarding it. So I'm going to start off with a positive. All right. So this person visited. Now, I got to play some context on this. We are picking reviews since COVID. That is our criteria. So we didn't want to do one that was old. We want to do one is right now, if you were to visit an Apple store, what would that experience be like? And we wanted to have it here. So let's talk about it. So these are all Google reviews. That's where we pulled these from. And in Apple, they call it a promoter, which is a good review, and a detractor if it's a bad review. So we're going to talk about a promoter. So this happened a month ago. This review is in context of COVID. On top of that, my visit was during the holiday season. There will almost definitely be a line for you to wait in. I visited the store twice. The first time, the wait was an hour or so long. On my next visit, it was about 20 to 25 minutes. The security staff was largely helpful and even chatted with us while we were waiting to be called. They have a well-organized system going for themselves. At the store itself, employees were very respectful and tried to be as helpful as possible. It seems the Apple support sends you on a wild goose chase that ends up placing Apple Store employees in an awkward position at times. That's actually very well said. They do their best to assist you when they can. Everyone is upfront about their expectations in regard to what they may or may not be able to do. If your issue cannot be solved at the store itself, they will do their best to provide you outside resources for you to explore. The setup is like a bank now. Employees are behind a glass and talk to you through a speaker. There are plenty of hand sanitizer to go around, and there was an ample space for customers to remain socially distant while they were being served.
Well, it looks like Freehold is on top of it
Yep.
as always.
Now, Frank, a couple things I want to point out in this one. Number one is she waited an hour, and we're still getting a 5-star review here.
Yeah.
They felt it was very organized. I love the word expectations because that was a word that we used in Apple a lot.
Yes.
So I love the fact when someone actually says one of our, words that we use at Apple and uses them in reviews like this, because then that tells you that we were able to, hit them on we use the Apple lingo and we got it on them, So, set up now. They talk about the bank now employees where they're behind the glass.
Yeah.
They felt very safe going there. So, and then they talked about, well, if the issue couldn't be solved, they'll give you outside resources, which I think we did a very good job at. We weren't tied down to that Apple way of doing things. Like you have to do things, only suggest Apple things. I thought we were very good at suggesting third-party partners and other ideas. So this was a very good review.
No.
Is there any other takeaways, Frank, from that review you could think of, or?
Well, I think you hit it right on the head. The expectations, the person that they talk to set the right expectations. And if that person told them, hey, it's going to be an hour wait, and they were okay with that, that's the expectation that was set. And, they were happy with that. Some people wouldn't be. So I guess at that point you could give them some alternatives.
Right.
But no, it's everything was set up out front, and so they were very happy with it. So,
all right, what you got, Frank? We're gonna do positive or negative?
I'll do positive.
All right.
This was in August. This review is from. It's a 4-star review. So I don't think that the telephone booth things were set up at the store at that point in August, but it was still during COVID. This is from Vince S. It says, my first visit ever at the Apple Store, and a good one. My older iPhone crashed, and my service provider suggested coming here to see if they could recover it. After setting up an appointment, I browsed in the mall and returned at my specified time. Again, there the expectation is, hey, we'll call you or text you when we're ready for you. There was still a short wait, but eventually a genius, their term, I believe, saw me. Jerry was very personable and took my phone to the back room. He came out a few minutes later and it was working. I was thrilled and asked what I owed. He said, nada, no charge. Now, had I been more astute, I would have purchased a new phone and had the old one transferred, but I left the store thinking I could get a bit more use out of it. I was wrong. It later crashed again and again. I did purchase a newer phone and my provider, but had no choice of color. Not that it really mattered. As I said, I really should have taken care of everything in the Apple Store. All of the employees there seemed friendly and helpful. There were classes going on and many people getting tech support. The walls were filled with accessories, and I'm sure there would have been more choices had I purchased my new phone here. Live and learn.
I love when customers actually are responsible on themselves for the mistake.
Yeah.
That's very hard to get sometimes.
So that's one of the things that when I would run across people just out in the wild that, had a problem with their phone or they went to the carrier. I said, you don't need to go to your carrier. Just go to the Apple store, make an appointment, go to the Apple store, and they'll take care of the issue. I mean, at least there you're talking to the source. You're not getting a third-hand opinion from a salesperson that sells Samsung and all the other phones there, So that's what I would always recommend somebody at least touching base with Apple before you made any decision. And like this person found out, had they done everything there, they could have traded the phone in, maybe not gotten a lot of money for it, but traded it in and, bought a newer one, which they ended up doing anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So
sometimes that's the solution. A lot of times, a lot of customers don't really think that's the solution. They think, well, why are they trying to make me? The biggest thing I always love, well, they're trying to sell me a new phone. That's always my favorite, saying. Oh, they're trying to sell me something. Well, maybe that's the only solution you got. Reality is sometimes if you have an iPhone 7 right now and your phone's bad and you're trying to get the same iPhone 7, meanwhile you have a phone that's worth $399 right now that you could easily get and do an easy payment plan on with your Apple Card, which gives you 3% back. It's a no-brainer sometimes.
Yes,
and sometimes agree. And maybe it takes. You may not realize it when you're there, but when you go home and you realize you brought home the same failing product, the same problem, nothing's gone away, you kind of change. And you realize that maybe that guy wasn't so bad. And we don't get that kind of response again.
Right.
Typically, we may not even know that. But sometimes they come back,
Well, sometimes, people will restore a new phone from an older phone and find out they have the same problem. People that tell me they have that, I said, okay, somewhere along the line, your backup is corrupt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I said, what you need to do is erase everything and start from scratch, and then go to the App Store and re-download, because you have all of the apps that you've downloaded. All you have to do is tap them individually.
Yeah.
And then
the only thing you lose is personal preferences. That's the only thing you lose.
Yeah, well, I know some people that they're addicted to these games, and they're like, "Oh, I'll lose my score." I'm like,
"Well,
it's
pick
a
a game
score.
that
Come on, man.
Pick a game that connects to Facebook or your Apple ID, and then you won't have that problem."
But then every time I see him, I got that same problem. I got the same answer. I don't know what to tell you. So.
All right. Yeah, if you have
this one is from Mackenzie. This is a 1-star review. This was on 12/19 of this year, 2020 rather. And it says, my mom cracked her phone, barely cracked, and went to get it fixed. She was told she needed an appointment. She didn't know how. They made one for her on the spot. My phone fell into a snowbank and shattered when it hit ice. I showed up with my phone in a container of rice. It was completely destroyed and non-functioning. They told me I needed to make an appointment because of the pandemic. I explained that I clearly cannot make an appointment with a non-functioning phone. They recommend that I ask someone to borrow their phone to make an appointment during a pandemic. I explained that someone helped make my mom an appointment and that I needed my phone for work tomorrow. They said that they couldn't help me. The representative said I am not allowed inside until I have an appointment. I got the screen fixed by another place. I go to use my phone and my Apple ID is malfunctioning. I chat with them online and they recommend I go to the store. I am so sick of being jerked around by the employees of Apple. Well, okay. So let's talk about this one.
See, the negative ones are always fun, aren't they?
Well, yeah. Now,
yeah, they are.
I like how this person opened up with, my mom cracked her phone, barely cracked, and went to get it fixed. She was told she needed an appointment. She didn't know how. They made one for her. So on the spot. So now I have to assume that that phone was fixed based from the appointment. So clearly, in the first paragraph of this, she has the solution to her problem. However, she's one of these people that I just told, you tell them the solution and they don't want to hear it. I get it. It's a pandemic. And
So, do you think they made the appointment at the store for another day, or do you think that she stayed the same day?
Her mom?
Yes.
Well, I don't know, but
right.
Here's why I do empathize with her. They perhaps could have made the appointment for her. I don't know why somebody didn't have the iPad out there and make an appointment for either for that later that day if one was available, or the next day. They certainly could have done that. Mm-hmm. But so then she says she had the screen fixed at another place.
Now, that could be a Best Buy. That could be a third party. We don't know.
Yes. Could be the kiosk in the mall.
Yeah. Oh, God, I hope not. We don't know. And by the way, we don't know what phone it was, so we don't know what style. But you got to think it's got to be at least a 6S or above, which, really should not be fixed by anybody else but Apple.
Now, what I don't understand is she says, I got the phone and my Apple ID is malfunctioning.
Right.
I don't know what that means.
Well, a lot of times when the phone's been turned off, turned back on, and then there's some updates to the Apple ID settings, and maybe they don't know the password because they haven't used it in forever.
Oh, yeah.
Or they have two-factor authentication that was turned on.
Yep.
Something like that. What I'm surprised is why every single employee online would ever suggest to send someone back to an Apple store for an Apple ID specific issue.
Yeah.
When there should be a big thing on like the screen that says, do not send anybody to the Apple store for an Apple ID problem.
Right on the Apple page, if you tell them you have a problem with your Apple ID, it says click here if you forgot your password or whatever,
and you
just
follow the
reset
steps.
your password.
And plus, it's probably her mother who doesn't turn off her phone very often and probably doesn't use the Apple ID very often. And that's where, again, the biggest thing is turning off the phone, turning it back on, or an update runs. And remember, sometimes with the update, you have to put the Apple ID in.
Yes.
So that's what I think happened here. And that's what triggered the event. But it's after the fix was done. Now, again, to me, it sounds like they got it done the right way because they said after the screen was done, the Apple ID problem showed up. So I don't think...
no, that was her mother. Her mother got the screen fixed. And then this one, Mackenzie's phone was broke, and she got the screen fixed at another place.
Right, yeah.
And then the Apple ID malfunctioned.
Yeah. So, well, interesting. Again, I could see how she's being jerked around, especially with the Apple ID problem, but the glass crack and the Apple ID are two different things. And, man, you need to know your Apple IDs, whether it's you need to know your Apple ID, your mom's Apple ID, your wife's Apple ID, your son that's only 2 months old Apple ID. Yes, I have an Apple ID for my son already. He's only 2 months old because I'm preparing him for the future. All right. Our final one to talk about today is from me. It's a 1-star review from 3 months ago. Apple has drastically changed the way they treat their customers. I wanted to see the new iPhone 12 and was told I can't because they're already at capacity due to the coronavirus. We walking around the mall for 30 minutes and then went back to the Apple store, and my friend said that he was interested in buying an iPhone. They let us in the store. It appears they are lying to keep their customers out unless you're buying. I'm disgusted, and I'm glad I'm leaving the iPhone platform for Android.
Well, good luck.
I wanted to see the new iPhone 12, but he had no interest in purchasing it. Meanwhile, someone who said they were interested in buying it, they let him in. I'm very curious of how that conversation went.
Yeah.
And is Apple truly blocking people from just trying? I can understand why they don't want people to look at it, because the reality is right now, first off, you shouldn't want to touch
right
somebody. I'm sure they spray them down. I'm very confident they do.
Yeah.
But I am a little surprised that Apple wouldn't let them go in to see it. but they were at capacity, so maybe the timing wasn't right. Maybe when the friend went back,
Yeah.
it was not as busy, and then that's when he was allowed in.
I don't know.
Well, it's hard to say. So this makes a point of, if you're going to go to the Apple Store, don't go there because you want to look around, because that's
Right.
not the time.
Yeah,
This is not the time for that.
Yeah.
In fact, that's why this store looks like a bank now, to avoid that.
Yeah.
So, but the idea that he's just upset for that experience to go to Android is like very childish. I mean, it really is. I'm going to the Android platform because I can't touch the iPhone.
Well,
Yeah,
hey,
Frank, I don't want to do this. I want to touch the iPhone. I can't touch it. I'm going to Android.
well, I don't know. What are you going to do?
Sorry,
I,
Shion Sudoku.
I don't
By the
know
way, learn
why
how to
they
spell
would have
because
let one person
because
in and not the other.
because
That doesn't make sense to me.
I love how I said we walking around the mall.
Yeah.
We are walking. We walked around the mall, maybe, or we are walking around the mall. Not we walking.
Yeah. I have another one here from. You remember Mark
it.
Mills?
Absolutely, I remember. Mark.
All right. Well, here, this one is from Amanda in Columbus in October. I had a great experience. Chris was my first agent in the store, followed by Mark in the same evening. Both were confident, which I needed to assuage my fears of an unable to rescue past data. But they followed through. They replaced my phone, recovered all data, and Mark was able to figure out what my remote tech guy couldn't figure out related to my email. To boot, they were both great with people, tech people. So that's the infamous Mark Mills experience. Mark always went the extra mile to help out. However, she has an update because this is a 1-star rating.
Oh my God, really?
Yes, it says update. How it's changed. Apple sucks. The Genius Bar is only available for certain types of issues now. Hiked all the way to the mall only to be turned away and scheduled with a phone agent. I want in-person service.
Now I'm going to let you know, everybody, right now, that's been going on before.
Yes.
We had COVID. We were trying a lot. We were trying to do a lot of things, online support, because if you wait at the Genius Bar, the only reason you should be there is if there's a hardware issue.
Yes.
That's it.
Yep.
If you're, and whatever, we don't know what his issue was. Now, to be fair,
yes.
Now, I don't know if somebody, misinterpreted what he said, but it's pretty, that kind of sucks that he got pushed away. But I think his issue was probably not related.
They told him, you got to talk to a phone agent.
Yeah.
And now,
and by the way, you could be set up with a call within 2 minutes.
Yes. And here's the thing. Had somebody mentioned to this person that, hey, and as a creative, we always did this during setup, download the Apple Support app. That is the first place you should go if you have any questions or problems. Don't, like this woman did, don't trek all the way to the mall just to find out, oh, I can't get in. Yes, you can't get in. There's a pandemic. Things have changed. Had she just used the support app, probably could have had her problem resolved by a very competent person. And they are Apple employees that you contact through the Apple Support app.
Yep. Now they don't have the retail experience, and they don't get probably the same training.
Right.
So yeah, I will say that the Apple Store, as far as the employee goes, is likely going to be smarter than the one online because of the face-to-face interaction they deal with.
Right.
Definitely you're not going to get, but if you're going to talk to a service specialist or a genius, you definitely need a tier 2 on the phone. And we'll end it with this one. I have another good review here. It's a 1-star that was left 2 months ago. Wish I could leave no stars. Complete colossal waste of time. Son had Beats Solo headphones that were just out of warranty and seemed to have a small issue with not locking into the headpiece. Spent 30 minutes on the phone with Apple with help yesterday, and the person said, can't even make an exception without seeing you, so you should go to the Apple Store and make an appointment. Well, Apple Store rep was courteous, but couldn't offer 0 real help besides suggesting to have it fixed for $400 bucks, which they were $300 new. So upset. Rest of the family has Apple products and has given this company tens of thousands of dollars over the years. For me, I have an Android, and I only hope Apple goes out of business. Well, sorry, Larry, that last part is not going to happen. As far as the solo
At least not
headphone,
anytime soon.
nope. And for the Beats, I can't stress this enough. Going to the Apple Store is a complete waste of time.
Yep.
The Beats are always going to be sent out. And so I'm going to, Larry, if you're listening to this podcast, you never go to the Apple Store with your Beats. And again, this goes back to the Apple Support app, which will never suggest you going to the store, probably unless you are doing a hardware repair, which in this case it is, because it sounds like it wasn't snapping back in the head part. That's what it sounds like to me. And yeah, out of warranty Beats suck. The price is terrible. It's not worth it at all. It's always worth to buy a new pair,
but
which
again,
sucks.
With the Apple Support app, those Beats would be registered under that Apple ID.
And this is where I'm not mad at him, because he was told to go to the store to make an exception.
Right. Yeah,
so it just made the experience worse. It made Apple look bad,
Yeah.
Specifically Freehold look bad, for this reason, which is not right. And the person, whoever the tier 1 is, needs to get a little bit of an ass chewing, because he should have never sent him to the store to get an override of a Beats. I can tell you right now, Beats are never overridden in warranty. They never are. I can't even remember a time where someone covered a pair of Beats headphones for somebody ever.
Huh? Really?
I can't even think of a time.
Well, I can remember the time in the store when the managers, if somebody was just out of warranty or something, and they said, "Well, what do you want to do?"
Right.
And you could just say, "Well, I think we should give it to them," and they said, "Well, go ahead."
Right.
All
right, but if they were out of warranty, and that's the thing about these headphones, the warranty things have to be done by case basis.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a physical hardware problem, and if Apple doesn't have they don't have coverage for that bending issue. I mean, the Beats headphones are plasticky; they're not that great. Just get a pair of AirPods Pro. They won't do that. They won't do that. But Beats are tough. Beats are really tough because the out of warranty justification is not good, and they only have a year warranty.
They
and
haven't
if you're paying
changed that since Apple bought them.
So, in my opinion, Beats is not exactly the best. They're not behind that brand anymore. They're servicing them for the sake of doing it, but the AirPods is where they're going with, because they have AppleCare options. This doesn't. What does that tell you?
Yeah.
All right, Frank. Well, that's our reviews for this week. I love going through the reviews and seeing some of these things, and we hope you guys enjoyed us. In fact, now that we're ending this podcast episode, check out our YouTube page, because right here on the YouTube page, top 5 tips on Apple Pages just released by me. So I piggybacked off of our successful pages video, and I added some tips in there I think that are great for you to use. It helps you out for resumes, finding how to restore stuff from your old part of your document and bring it back using that feature. The locking, even the idea of using Alpha, which is one of the coolest features that Pages has. Frank, did you take any tips away from those?
I did. First the locking. I had that issue a couple times. You inadvertently move something. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah, you can just cut and paste. A lot of people don't even realize you could do that.
Yeah, and that was good. And then the fact that if you change a heading or something, the font of it, and then you hit update, it'll change all of them to that. So so you don't have to do each one individually.
Yep.
The
styles is great. Yeah. So check that out. We're going to try to do more stuff on our YouTube channel, and we hope that you guys are enjoying them. So it's been great here to do stuff on the podcast, a little different than we do on the YouTube, but check it out, guys. And, Frank, another great week here at the podcast. And I have to ask you one more thing, because it is Friday. Are you going to be my Valentine?
Oh, buddy. No. I said yes to Tara first.
I have to go talk to my wife. Thank you, everybody, for enjoying us here at the Think Different podcast. I'm Will TLD, and that is Frank, who's hitting on my wife. Everybody, I love you, and I do love every single one of you.
Take care, man. Peace out.